All right, thanks for being with us here at Arc Salt Lake. Brian Schnee with you tonight. It is Monday, November 4th. Tonight, of course, taking a look at the many angles to keep you informed leading up to Election Day, which is tomorrow. You cannot put your ballot in the mailbox tonight. You've got to go somewhere with it, whether that's one of those ballot drop boxes or go vote in person tomorrow. One state the whole country will be watching closely tomorrow night is the state of Nevada. That crucial swing state could play a pivotal role in who wins the race for the White House. One of those swing states we're keeping an eye on, definitely. And Ben Margiott of our sister station here, kind enough to join us live on the program tonight, taking a look at Nevada and the impacts, what's happening there, and the overall race right now for president. Ben, first and foremost, thanks for being with us. I caught up on some of your coverage earlier today. Excellent on social media, by the way. What's the general feeling right now in Nevada leading up to Election Day?
The general sense, Brian, as you can imagine, is it is going to be very, very close. There were a few really high quality polls that came out over the last 4 or 5 days. And you guessed it, it was 48, 48, 48, 47. It was all within the margin of error or tied exactly on the nose. So, it's kind of a cop-out to say this, but it's all going to come down to turnout tomorrow and really how the nonpartisans in our state, which make up over 30% of the electorate probably, how they vote, because we have no idea what the nonpartisans are going to do on this critical election.
Keeping things interesting. It's why it's called a swing state, right? And it's definitely tight in Nevada as it is in other parts of the country tonight when you look at some of the voter turnout. Donald Trump has not fared well in Nevada over the last 2 presidential races, compared to here in Utah, by the way, where Donald Trump has done quite well. Is there any inkling where the swing will go? Because those 6 electoral votes are crucial here, and all eyes on Nevada, at least for a lot of these campaigns.
They can be very crucial. 6 electoral votes, not that many, but there are a handful of scenarios where Nevada is the tipping point state. As you point out correctly, Trump has not won Nevada in 2016 or 2020. And in fact, a Republican presidential candidate has not won Nevada since 2004. You have to go all the way back to George W. Bush's re-elect, his second term in office. So 20 years since a Republican has won here. And yet it seems like it could happen this time. The registration advantage, a significant registration advantage that Democrats have enjoyed here for several cycles in a row now, has really shrunk to, I think, where it's less than 10,000 voters. So might as well be exactly tied here when it comes to party registration. And then there have been some demographic changes as well that, potentially could favor Donald Trump. And it's why, despite having lost it in the previous 2 bids for office, they're still making a huge play for the Silver State this cycle.
So, Ben, looking at voter confidence right now, I've been reading up a little bit on Nevada, focused primarily here on Utah, but there's so much focus right now on some changes or some at least movement that was made in the voting process there, maybe to shore up some loose ends. I know you've been talking to people who've been out there casting the ballot. How confident are voters in the overall voting system right now in Nevada?
I would say most of the folks are pretty confident. I think what you're alluding to is that Nevada did transition to, I won't bore you with the details, but it's a top-down voter registration system. And this is the first election in which that system will be the system that runs this contest. And so as of yet, there have not been any major issues. A couple of minor things with uploading huge batches of data to this new statewide system. By and large, it has gone pretty smoothly, but this is really the first big test for that. And of course, tomorrow, the biggest test of all, because there will be such a huge turnout that we're expecting on Election Day. Right now, turnout at about, I believe, 60% here in Washoe County, here in northern Nevada. That's probably going to jump another 20 plus points tomorrow. So it'll be a stress test for this new system tomorrow for sure.
Ben, across the whole state, are there preparations underway, I guess, as a contingency for any potential unrest that could happen on Election Day?
Nevada Governor Joe Lombardo did activate the National Guard. It's a pretty limited deployment. I believe only a few dozen National Guardsmen, but they will be on hand, standing by tomorrow in the event that something were to happen. Well, something I will flag is that we probably won't know at least who wins Nevada tomorrow. While we might know who wins the presidency because of many other swing states, we might not know who wins Nevada specifically because roughly half of our voters now are choosing to vote by mail. Those can be counted up until, I believe, Saturday if they have a postmark. So in some cases, these races are not called if they are really tight until Friday or Saturday. That's what happened with our last Senate race. So it could be a few days before we know at least who wins our state, even though the presidency may well be decided by then.
Ben, great insight. Before you go, I do want to remind folks that actually our coverage area bleeds over into Elko County. So we do get a little bit of Nevada in the Salt Lake City television market and beyond, of course, streaming wherever you can watch part of our newscast. But before you leave us, what else do you have your eye on as we get closer to polls closing tomorrow night? Obviously, things are pretty close.
No doubt about it. What I'm watching, I don't want to get too deep into the numbers here, but the Republicans have really turned out at higher numbers so far. They have about a 4% turnout advantage compared to Democrats at this point. So what I'm going to be watching over the next 12 hours is really going to be if Democrats today have a ton of mail ballots that show up. There were very few that came in over the weekend, and so that I think has led to some Democratic concerns that they'll be able to close this turnout gap. If there are a ton of mail ballots that come in today and tomorrow, that gap could be closed. But if that gap is not closed, Republicans are feeling pretty confident. Whether or not that confidence turns into a victory tomorrow night, of course, we'll all have to wait and see.
All right, Ben, thank you so much for joining us here tonight. Ben Margiott joining us from KRNV in northern Nevada here with some good insight. Appreciate you joining us, my friend.
Happy to, anytime.
So let's take another live look here from Washoe County Ballot Processing Center. Some people looking at some of the machines and the counting operation there. A really cool 4-box they've got here, by the way, so you can really get some good insight into how things look here. And as we mentioned, and as Ben alluded to, Nevada, a crucial swing state in the race for the White House. But with only 6 electoral votes, there are other states that could potentially flip a lot of things a little bit sooner. And as Ben also mentioned, that could also decide what happens tomorrow night and who gets that race called early on before we even know what happens in the state of Nevada. So just over 24 hours, the polls will close here in the Beehive State. Earlier today, 2 News spoke with Lieutenant Governor Diedre Henderson, also the Chief Elections Officer, about making sure your vote is counted if you're still in line to cast your ballot when those polls close tomorrow at 8 p.m.
It's important for voters to understand that if there are people in line when the polls close, we're going to let all of those people vote if they're already in line. And that's in Utah law. That's a normal practice here in the state. But the clerks have been instructed to not give any early polling or any returns until after every last voter has voted. So that's statewide. So if we hear of one polling location in Utah County or in Morgan County where we've still got lines, we're going to have the clerks hold everything and not release any results yet until the last voter has voted. We want to make sure that people have the ability to vote without being skewed or, having some information that they wouldn't otherwise have had if they would have voted before before that 8 p.m. deadline. Election officials do not call races. Sometimes there are media outlets who might, but we don't call races, and it's not really over until it's clear that all of the votes have been counted and adjudicated and ballots have been cured. So we don't make any of those calls. Any voter who is concerned or has questions, go to your county clerk. All of the processes that we're doing are public processes. You can go actually watch your county clerk and their teams verify signatures from the ballots. You can go watch that process. We'll be having post-election audits coming up here in the next few days. You can participate in that. You can go watch there. I think sometimes the lack of understanding is replaced with maybe some fear. And so make sure that you have an understanding of what is happening in our election process. I'm fully confident that people will come away with their concerns resolved.
All right, welcome back in here after hearing from our Chief Elections Officer. Confident in how things will go tomorrow and also how they've been going. Live looks for you right now. Kamala Harris here, Donald Trump there, both of them speaking live at their respective campaign events tonight because it is crunch time. Heidi Hatch, kind enough to join us here. Always look to you for some good insight here for the state of Utah. We covered Nevada, which has its own crucial write-in things, but how are you seeing things shake out here as we get closer to Election Day in Utah?
Well, here in Utah, one interesting thing that we're adding to the mix there, we just heard from the lieutenant governor, is they won't be releasing numbers if there's any lines. And sometimes there are lines. It's hard to know. In one of the last presidential elections, there was a really long line that was there long after 8 o'clock, because once you're in line, you can stay there in Utah County in the past. So if we can't release numbers until everyone's out of the lines, we could be waiting a while tomorrow night.
Be here a long
yes,
time.
I don't expect
I'm more
any long
concerned
lines.
about you, Heidi, because obviously at 10 o'clock, I want to get my election info.
Right, I think everybody does. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. And the interesting thing is a presidential election, there's always a lot more excitement than some of the municipal elections. We're at 46%, which is good the day before, but it's also not amazing because that means that you still have 54% that tomorrow could still be voting in person. Are they going to go to the polls because that's what they trust the most? Are they dropping off their ballots? All of that is unknown at this point, so we'll have to wait and see how people roll out those votes tomorrow, because more than half of registered voters still need to stick their ballots in a drop box or show up in person.
Kamala Harris speaking live right now. Also, Donald Trump is speaking at his respective campaign, both of them targeting certain areas. Notice that Utah is not one of those for an obvious reason, because Donald Trump has done quite well here. Any indication that that gap would be closed this time around? Anything you're seeing in some of the numbers?
In Utah, I'm really not seeing it. Interestingly enough, in some of the past presidential elections, that's been an issue. In 2016, I think there was a lot of reticence for Republicans to back Trump. And even though ultimately people did, there was questions of whether or not they wouldn't. They had Evan McMullin as a third-party candidate, and a lot of people thought he might actually win here in Utah. He did not. 2020, again, a little bit of a change, but I think we expect a solid win for Trump here in Utah.
Donald Trump speaking live right now on your screen. You see him there with, looks like some workers behind him with the helmets, hard hats, and they're ready to go. Really quick here. I know it's not just presidential race tomorrow. There's a lot of other things. What else do you have your eye on?
We're keeping a close eye on the gubernatorial race here in Utah because we have the governor who's up by about 17% in the poll right now. Brian King, the Democrat, polling really well. And then you have Phil Lyman, who's a write-in, and a couple other candidates, Latham, who is also independent. Interestingly enough, while Utah is a fairly conservative state on a lot of the congressional races, we've seen some good runs from United Utah Party and a couple other third-party libertarian this year. They're kind of adding to the mix. So it'll be fun to watch as those numbers come in.
All right, thank you, Heidi. Still ahead here on Arc Salt Lake, a University of Utah communications professor sharing some insight on misinformation. Have you picked up on anything floating around on social media that just doesn't seem right? We'll talk about it. Welcome back into Arc Salt Lake as our coverage of the lead up to Election Day tomorrow continues. I spoke with Ben Lyons, a communications professor at the University of Utah, about the impacts of misinformation in this year's election. Just generally, what are you seeing right now across the board as it pertains to this?
Well, we're seeing a lot more of the same, right? It's things we could have predicted, obviously. We're seeing a lot of the same sorts of claims being made that we've seen in past elections. And I'd be shocked if we didn't see really similar claims being made, casting doubt on electoral process and electoral outcomes in the following week, right? I don't think it's any novel ground. I don't think it's anything we didn't anticipate. I think we're seeing sort of repeat of 2020, right?
Is this worse than 2020, or is this right along par of what we've already previously seen?
I don't think we could make a claim that it's worse, right? I think it's pretty similar, and I would need to see pretty strong evidence to make a claim that it would be worse. There's always new wrinkles, new innovations, and at least for people who are strategically spreading disinformation, right? We can separate out, like there'll be misinformed people making claims that just happen to be incorrect. But we do see strategic acts to spread misinformation, of course. And, we do see, for instance, Twitter, which is, or X, what have you, has obviously a very small user base if we look at all of America, but it's sort of influential in that it can help set agendas for other media platforms or journalists and things like that. And we do see one difference there in that we see less moderation of these sorts of claims than we've had in the past due to ownership changes, right? Elon Musk is running X now, and obviously he's actively engaged in the campaign as well, right? So that's something we didn't see before, right? But I think hard to say like pure volume and pure impact of misinformation is increasing or decreasing over time.
Is there a certain way to pinpoint if a certain political party is more involved in the misinformation than others? Have you noticed a shift? Not to pitch you against anything, because that's not the goal, but are you seeing a stronger output of misinformation from one side versus the other?
Well, I think we can say pretty clearly that claims that doubt the outcomes of elections, election denial claims, come from one party, right? Generally speaking, we can add this up. We can track the claims back to who they're coming from. That's coming from Republicans, right? Other forms of misinformation, I'm sure that people collate aware of what those folks are doing. Perhaps they have certain biases where they're not tracking certain forms of misinformation. Maybe they're missing claims from Democrats. It's totally possible. But I think some of the most potentially dangerous claims are those that cast doubt on the electoral process and electoral outcomes. And I think those we can say are more likely to come from Republicans. And the reason why I say those are more dangerous, obviously, we have the immediate impact on the election. They might spur people to take action, protest, and in a very unlikely event, engage in some sort of anti-democratic acts of their own, right? So violence or things of that nature. But we also have sort of like general second order cumulative effects on people's trust in the system, right? And it doesn't even need to be people that believe in those claims, but it's just sort of like the existence of those over time accumulates and can have sort of broader effects on people just generally seeing our electoral system as less robust, right? Even among those who might be predisposed to reject those claims entirely, I think it's sort of poison the well. And, we need to believe in our electoral system, right? So I think that's why those are so dangerous.
Reminder, tomorrow night from 8 to 9 o'clock on our social media platforms, we'll be live streaming some coverage on the election, and it's going to be kind of the behind the scenes look. I might even be eating Newsroom pizza on that thing. It'll be a little different. So I hope you join us on YouTube Live, on Facebook Live, probably on the app, all those things. So a little bit of appointment scrolling for you tomorrow night. Maybe you're at home after dinner and you want to get a little election fix, but not too much in there. And more of that surface level. So I hope you'll join us.
Yeah, and right around the same time, we could see some snow showers falling tomorrow.
All right. I mean, look at these temperatures. It feels like winter out there.
It
feels
sure
like
does.
Snow should be happening.
Yes, and it certainly looks like winter up in the mountains where we have all white conditions out there, whiteout conditions from the heavy snow that we saw over the weekend. I mean, it got pretty heavy in a short amount of time. We even had a few heavy downpours there, creating a winter wonderland out into the mountains here over the weekend. And we've got more of that to come tomorrow with plenty of snow. Not a big snowstorm, but a few inches of snow certainly falling likely in the mountains. So we've got current light wind gusts out of the northwest, 15 to 30 miles per hour. We've got winds tomorrow that'll be pretty gusty across much of the state here. Could see some 30 to 35 mile per hour winds. And you can see we've got some pretty active weather from Texas. Look at this. A pretty distinct line of thunderstorms there into central Texas all the way up into the Midwest. They've got severe weather happening there. Meanwhile, we've got a storm moving into our area. Now it's going to be lacking moisture with it here. Mainly scattered snow showers we're expecting throughout the day tomorrow as that cold front pushes in. But this will be certainly a cold storm for many with snow showers continuing into the evening. I think we'll be done, though, in the evening up towards the north. So generally what we're thinking along the Wasatch back 1 to 3 inches. The mountains probably about 3 to 8 inches, and you'll see that the overnight lows down into the 30s is going to be quite cold with 40s for highs tomorrow. That is it. It's going to be chilly. The coldest temperatures of the season arriving for us across much of the area tomorrow. We're into the 60s, into the 50s, and 60s for the upcoming weekend along the Wasatch Front. We go from the 40s to more 40s. A little bit nicer, though, for the weekend there, back into the 50s, and then another storm will be tracking as we get into early next week. So we'll keep an eye on that, Brian, here. But overall, chilly conditions each and every day.
Thanks for joining us tonight. More election coverage tomorrow, including our live stream at 8 o'clock. See you then.